It's everybody. We are all supposed to be spreading the word. If we don't have enough servers, well, this church service really doesn't function the way it should. If we're missing singers, the worship kind of falls apart. It becomes a little bit bland. Now, the key point with the singers is you've got people up here. We got singers down here too. And so this is something that stuck out in my brain when I was thinking about all this. Coming to a church service isn't about being an observer. We're not coming to a play to watch the actors do their thing. We're supposed to be part of the play. We're supposed to be part of the service, right? So, what about, in a more general term, what if we don't have enough role models? And that can be anybody from, really even the little guys. We have 2-year-olds, and in some fashion, they exhibit love. They can show us what genuine love, genuine happiness, genuine joy is. But then any age group from birth to, we'll call it 110, everybody has a role to play as a role model. If you don't have enough people presenting the word the right way, actions the right way, again, the church struggles. And potentially falls apart to complete collapse. So everyone has a role. Psalm 139, verse 13 through 14 lets us know that we are fearfully and wonderfully made. Again, God created us to be who we are specifically. He gave us specific strengths, specific weaknesses. He gave us things that we need to work on, and He created us in a fashion that we are supposed to fit into this puzzle. We're a puzzle piece, and we're supposed to fit into that puzzle. If we don't have, you're not going to be able to, as the kids, they have the little toys where they put the square in the rectangle or the square in the circle. There's a circle that's supposed to fit in the circle, and there's a square that's supposed to fit in the square, and we are all that way fitting into the puzzle for the whole church body. You might say, okay, you agree that everybody has their role. But Chris is a much better preacher than me, and so I'm going to let Chris preach. And Nick and Austin, they're way better singers than me, so I'm going to let them sing. I don't want anybody to hear my voice because I don't want to mess up the worship service. Try not to fall off the stage here. That was close. Or, maybe Wednesday nights is poker night. I can't come to poker night, or I can't come to a church service. I got to go to poker night. That's the time that we spend time with my buddies. I don't know. Or maybe I'm just a little bit too tired to wake up in the morning. I'm going to sleep in because I can always catch the virtual service. I can teleworship, right? And so if we're making those kinds of excuses on a regular basis, there's a problem. If you're sick, fantastic. Tune in. Stay connected. If you're traveling for work, fantastic. Tune in and stay connected. But if you simply stayed up too late and didn't wake up on time, that may be a problem. I can tell you with COVID, that was definitively something that we went through. Because we had, at the time, our twins were born in May of 2020. Great time to have kids. But it was difficult. We were tired. There was a part of it that, we had the church service. It was great, man. You wake up, cup of coffee, pajamas, tune in. Chris is in here doing all the work, and somebody in the back, maybe it was Adam that was doing the work. Great, I'm staying connected. And then as time progressed, we started having a church service. But then it was still really easy to say, well, it's really hard to manage the kids at the church. We'll just tune in virtually. Turn to Hebrews 10, verse 24. And let us consider how we may spur one another on toward love and good deeds, not giving up meeting together, as some are in the habit of doing, but encouraging one another. Being together in the body, being here, being present, and being active in itself is an encouragement to the people around us. We're social creatures. We were built that way. Just like the bees are social creatures, they're built that way. When you pull honey supers from a colony, you take the honey, you take it away, you take it to an extraction facility, my garage, you throw it in a centrifuge. Anyway, when you take those boxes off the colony, typically you end up with bees that are stragglers. They got left behind in the box when I pulled it away. Not a lot, 10, 20. If you're somewhat aggressive through that process, a couple hundred. Well, when those bees get pulled away from their colony, they no longer have the social connection, the pheromones that the queen releases that they share between each other. All of a sudden, they have no clue where they are. And if you find one of these bees floating around our garage or just outside of our house, they're lost. They're completely lost. They have no way to really survive beyond whatever their short lifespan will be, and they have no function anymore within the cluster, within the organization that is supposed to function as one unit. Kind of interesting. It's not far off from what people experience too. You know, mental illness, depression, heart disease, dementia, schizophrenia, other physical health things as well, definitively are connected to how we are connected to people around us. So, the greatest commandment is love God with all your heart, mind, soul, and strength. And the second one is love people. So we're supposed to be together. We're supposed to be one unit. We're supposed to be involved with lives. My grandmother, she is mid-80s, 85 or 86, back in Russia. And her husband passed away. My dad's father passed away in about, I think, 1991. 90 or 91. She never remarried. Over the next, 30 years? Over the next 30 years, she slowly kept herself away from more and more people. Initially, she had the connection of my mom's side, but then she pushed them away. It got to a point where, more recently, the last 5 years especially, her dementia has gotten really spiraled out of control. She is diagnosed schizophrenic. She doesn't trust anybody. When we talk to her on the phone, I don't know that she knows who I truly am. She'll confuse my kids with my dad's kids. She knows the kids exist and she knows that she loves them, but her mental health has completely declined. That's not uncommon. Matthew 18:20 says, "For where 2 or 3 gather in my name, there I am with them." So according to the Bible, if we want to be closer to God, if we want to grow in that aspect, if we want to fulfill God's desires, one of those ways of doing that is to be together, purposely, intentionally. Being an active part of the body is not optional. According to the Bible, it is required. And you say, all right, Nikolai, you convinced me in 10 minutes. But how? How do I do that? It's really hard, and I agree, it's hard. It's hard to make changes that are the ones that really matter, right? So if our priorities shift enough, we can make changes without worrying about what others think. And we've experienced this. If something matters the most to you, you'll make that change without thinking twice. You know, without a doubt that anybody that has kids in the back, we have 3 back there. Hopefully they're keeping everybody, from going crazy. We have 3 back there. And generally speaking, everybody in here is going to be willing to lay down their comfort for their kids when it comes down to that point. Langley and I we were able to travel out to Phoenix for the national championships this past weekend. And we got to the airport really early coming back. We had a red eye at 10 p.m. So we were hoping to be able to get a flight early. No avail. We still had to wait. So we were at the airport for about 8 hours before our flight. And so we hung out before security. We stayed outside of security. There were more shops. I thought, hey, if we want to go to a different restaurant, we can grab an Uber. So we stayed outside of security, and I worked on this lecture, or this sermon. Langley did her data analytics. Kai slept. Kai came with us. The boys were at home with my parents. But next to us, there was a lady sitting there. She was maybe early 20s, late teens, Hispanic. Phoenix is where we were. Phoenix is, I don't know, maybe 100 miles north of the southern border. The lady had a daughter with her. I later found out through my broken Spanish and trying to do my best to communicate with her that she was 3 years old. She had one shoe with no shoelaces and a sock on the other side. The lady had a plastic bag, maybe two, with some personal items, some documents. She wasn't willing to really communicate. She didn't want to. That's not what she was worried about. At one point, I saw her speak with another lady that came by who I presume is a social worker. Again, it was in Spanish. I couldn't figure out what they were saying. But a couple hours later, the lady came by and I was able to ask her what the situation was. The lady was in the U.S. seeking asylum. I knew it would happen. We agreed there's not many situations I've been in where I can relate to that. You give up your entire life because there's nothing good over there and you're searching for hope and you're taking your daughter who doesn't have a shoe and the only thing that matters is safety, comfort, hope. In that situation for her, the priority for her was that. Nothing else mattered. And so I actually searched through the airport before I found this out. I kind of had a hint that there was something like that going on. I was thinking she was either getting deported. Oh, there's another part. She did have an ankle bracelet on. So she was being monitored. And I thought, well, she's either getting deported or something else. So I went through the airport. I tried to find a stuffed animal to purchase for the little girl. I didn't. I found cactuses. I thought I don't think she wants a cactus. So I didn't buy the cactus. But finding out that she was seeking asylum and she was being taken care of in some fashion really did encourage me through that situation. There's a podcaster, motivational speaker, that's somewhat popular gaining popularity amongst conservative type circles, leadership training, that sort of thing. Jocko Willink, some of you guys might know who he is. And he was a Navy SEAL, I don't know my ranks, commander. He was high up in the Navy SEALs. He trained a lot of different leaders within the Navy SEALs. And he utilizes his experience in the military and the strategies that he learned and employed on the battlefield to help business leaders develop and react to situations to grow their businesses. And so a lot of his ideas are really pretty awesome. He says it like it is. One of the main concepts that he talks about is extreme ownership. And it's exactly as it sounds. You take extreme ownership for everything you do and everything you're involved in. So he would send out a group of soldiers to do a specific mission. If that mission failed, he took it on himself to take ownership of that and figure out what happened. Not the other way around, not blaming the group, which is really amazing. We have a prime example of that kind of ownership in the church. Jesus showed extreme ownership for our salvation. And what he asks for us is to show extreme ownership the other way and take priority, take initiative, have the incentive, the motivation to do what he asks. And specifically in this situation, to be intentional about being with the body, being active parts of the church body. Proverbs is a section of the Bible that if you want a whole lot of wisdom, you want to be smacked around a little bit, it's a great section, really short snippets, and you can get a lot of information from there. There's two Proverbs that stuck out in my mind. Proverbs 13, verse 4, the soul of the sluggard craves and gets nothing, while the soul of the diligent is richly supplied. Proverbs 21:5. The plans of the diligent lead surely to abundance, but everyone who is hasty comes only to poverty. According to the Bible, intentionality is really important. So if you want to make a change, if you want to do something different, whether it be what we're talking about here or some other aspect of your life, you have to take extreme ownership of it and make it a priority to do so. The beauty when we're talking about being active members of Christ's body, the beauty is that it doesn't take very much to be really effective. The small things are what matters the most when it comes to this situation. When I started studying the Bible almost 13 years ago, it wasn't because Chris was a really, really good preacher that I decided to follow Christ. He's a great preacher, but that wasn't the reason. It wasn't because the singers did a really good job. They sang well. But it was because people like Austin and Luke and Jordan and Nick Walker and Matt, Isabel, and all these other different people that were willing to wrap me up and truly live out what they preach. The small things, giving somebody a hug in the church service may be the reason they come back. That makes you an active member of the service, of the church body. Showing joy on a regular basis and making it intentional and focused. Not fake, but intentional. Or things like, maybe you have an extreme sense and knowledge of audiovisual equipment. And instead of critiquing when the words don't come up right, because it's really hard back there. They're doing an amazing job. Maybe you go back there and help make that AV booth the best it can be. And there's a lot of people that are doing that kind of thing. There's people that are jumping in on childcare. There's people jumping in on corralling the singles, for example, into Bible studies. There's people doing those kinds of things. We just need more of it. Maybe you have kids that are in their teens, and they know how to use a lawnmower. And you can send them to somebody who's sick or somebody who's elderly that needs a little bit of extra care with their yard. I know that's something I look forward to, is putting my kids to work that way. Everybody has a role here to play. Maybe you have a specific way of reaching a group that nobody else in this room does. Maybe you went through a divorce, for example, and your faith has only grown through that. And there's somebody in this building or outside that is struggling through the same thing, and you can reach them more than anybody else in this moment. Maybe you've gone through a life loss, losing a parent, grandparent, or maybe you lost a child. I don't know how to relate to that. I don't know how to work through that. But you would have a way to be able to. We all have a very active role that we should be playing in the church, in the Christ body. Turn to Ephesians 5, verse 15. This is where we're going to be closing. Ephesians 5, verse 15. Look carefully then how you walk, not as unwise, but as wise, making the best use of time. We only have, well, if you're really young, 70, 80, 90 years. Maybe you have 10 years left. Maybe you have 5 years. We don't know. Maybe we have 1 year. Maybe we have a week. There's not endless time for us to be able to make an impact on the people around us, on the lives outside of this church, on the lives inside of this church. So let's shift our priorities towards becoming a more active part of the church body, utilizing the gifts that we've been given. It's interesting how this all comes together. The Spirit is amazing. I believe it was Jay that did a communion a couple weeks ago, and he had some lyrics that he showed. And I had a song that popped up in my head when I was working on this sermon, and I don't know if you noticed it. We played it in the break. Matthew West, Do Something. And I'll read part of the lyrics. I woke up this morning, saw a world full of trouble now, thought, how did we get so far down? And how's it ever going to turn around? So I turned my eyes to heaven. I thought, God, why don't you do something? Well, I just couldn't bear the thought of people living in poverty, children sold into slavery. The thought disgusted me. So I shook my fist at heaven, said, God, why don't you do something? And he said, I did. Yeah, I made you. Sometimes I look at verses and I like to plug in something personal for it to ring, right? Ephesians 5, verse 15, plus Nikolai. Look carefully how you walk, not as unwise, but as wise, making the best use of time through deliberate, intentional, focused actions as an active part of Christ's body. So again, thank you for your attention. I appreciate you guys letting me share my heart with you.
He's coming for your job, Dad. Great job, Nick. That was amazing. Got a lot to work on and a lot more to be intentional about. Let's go ahead and stand. We're going to do another mashup song here. Great job, Nick. We're going to do Every Move I Make into, what was it? Lord, I lift your name on high. Every move I make, I'm making you. You make me move, Jesus. Every breath I take, I breathe in you. Every step I take in you. You are my way, Jesus. Every breath I take, I breathe in you. Waves of mercy, waves of grace. Everywhere I look, I see your face. Your love has captured me. Oh my God, this love, how can it be? How can it be? You came from heaven to earth to show the way, from the earth to the cross. My debt to pay, from the cross to the sky, from the grave to the sky. Lord, I lift your name on high. Every move I make, I'm making you. You make me move, Jesus. Every breath I take, I breathe in you. Every step I take in you. You are my way, Jesus. Every breath I take, I breathe in you. Waves of mercy, waves of grace. Everywhere I look, I see your face. Your love has captured me. Oh my God, this love, how can it be? How can it be? You came from heaven to earth to show the way, from the earth to the cross. My debt to pay, from the cross to the grave, from the grave to the sky. Lord, I lift your name on high. Lord, I lift your name on high. Lord, I lift your name on high. will come up and lead us in closing prayer. Let's go, brother.
Really, brother. I'm sure there's people here that don't know Nikolai. It's amazing over the years how much he's done. But he flies under the radar. You know, people don't even know what he's doing, but he's serving other people, not for any recognition, but because that person needs serving. Thank you, brother. Let's pray. God in heaven, as we finish up here today, I pray, God, when we walk out this door that we won't put what we've learned here today behind us. But God, as we enter into this next week, I pray that we would open our hearts and our minds and ask you to show us what we need to do and how we need to be a better Christian for you. God, we love you. We thank you for this church. And we pray you be with each one of us as we go about our time. God, we pray in Christ's name. Amen.
Amen.